Hey, sports card fans, it's John Wade Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. Led by rookie cards for Jackie Robinson, Satchel Paige, and many other Hall of Fame players, 1949 Leaf is a noteworthy vintage release. The loaded checklist is further enhanced by short prints that occupy half the set. 1949 Leaf is significant because it was the first post-World War II set to feature color pictures on them. Virtually no sets were produced in the previous years due to wartime restrictions on ink, cardboard, and many supplies needed to make gum. As a result, the set features several key Hall of Fame rookie cards. Measuring 2 3/8 by 2 7/8 inches, the set's design is relatively basic. Each card front features a player against a vividly colored background that is either solid or two-tone. The player's name appears below a picture in a solid colored box. The card backs have the player's biographical info and a brief write-up, which was pretty standard for gum cards before Topps came along. As was customary for the era, an ad for All-Star Baseball gum appears at the bottom, along with an offer for one of 3 wrapper redemption premiums. While rookie cards fill a huge percentage of the set, key veterans include Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio, and Ted Williams. One of the more interesting cards in 1949 Leaf is that of Honus Wagner, who at the time was a coach for the Pirates. On the card, he's shown stuffing chewing tobacco into his mouth, an interesting revelation for hobbyists who thought his famed T206 card was withdrawn due to an anti-tobacco stance. Hobbyists long have argued specifics about the 1949 Leaf set. Since the cards contain both 1948 and 1949 copyright dates on them, some collectors thought the set was a 2-year issue. However, recent research has shown that in fact the set was released in early 1949. There's also some confusion as to how many cards were in the set. Finally, it was determined that 98 cards complete the basic 1949 Leaf set. What made things confusing is that the cards are skip numbered from 1 to 168. Also, a premium offer found on some of the card backs references an album that would hold 168 cards. Finally, exactly half the cards were severely short printed, to the point that it's incredibly difficult to piece the set together without a lot of patience, time, and money. It's not known why 1949 Leaf was skip numbered, but it has been speculated that Leaf was hoping to get kids to keep spending their pennies and nickels on cards that weren't in existence. It's also possible that future series were planned but scrapped when Bowman came along and signed players to exclusive contracts. Since the 1949 Leaf cards themselves were crudely colored, they are often found with coloring variations and registration issues. In this video, I'm going to show the top 10 most valuable cards from the 1949 Leaf set based on their PSA 4 values. I'll also give the values of those cards in higher grades, as well as the population count of those grades. As a note, because some cards have low population counts, the values in some grades might not reflect current prices, since it may be a year or 2 or even more since a copy in that grade has been sold. Now, before I get to the top 10, here are the cards that just missed the top 10. At number 15, the Ken Keltner short print card. At number 14, the Dale Mitchell short print card. At number 13, the Enos Slaughter short print card. At number 12, the Alvin Dark short print card. And at number 11, the Warren Spahn card. So, which cards made the top 10 list? Let's go find out. Coming in at number 10, we have the George Kell short print. In a PSA 4, there have been only 11 graded copies, with a current VCP average price of $1,679. There have been only 16 graded at PSA 5. They sell for around $1,800. There have been 12 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $3,000. There have been 11 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $6,600. There have only been 5 graded at PSA 8. The last PSA 8 sale was in November of 2018 through Heritage and sold for $15,600. And there has not been a PSA 9 or 10 graded copy of the George Kell card. At number 9, we have the Stan Musial. In a PSA 4, there have been 193 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $2,443. There have been 154 graded at PSA 5. They sell for around $4,084. There have been 90 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $5,039. There have been 59 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $9,818. There have been 27 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $40,800, placing the Stan Musial at the number 4 spot in terms of PSA 8 graded copies on this list. There's only been 2 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in November of 2018 through Heritage and sold for $264,000, placing the Stan Musial at the number 3 spot in terms of PSA 9 graded copies on this list. And there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Stan Musial card. At number 8, we have the Ted Williams. In a PSA 4, there have been 207 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $2,653. There have been 161 graded at PSA 5. They sell for around $3,540. There have been 135 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $3,275. There have been 70 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $6,510. There have been 51 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $15,562. There have only been 7 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in February of 2022 through Heritage and sold for $204,000, placing the Ted Williams at the number 4 spot in terms of PSA 9 graded copies on this list. And there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Ted Williams card. Coming in at number 7, we have the Joe DiMaggio. In a PSA 4, there have been 183 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $2,984. There have been 110 graded at PSA 5. They sell for around $3,240. There have been 85 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $5,633. There have been 50 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $7,800. There have been 13 graded at PSA 8. The last PSA 8 sale was in January of 2022 through Heritage and sold for $39,600, placing the Joe DiMaggio at the number 5 spot in terms of PSA 8 graded copies on this list. Now, there has been 1 graded at PSA 9, although there are no reported PSA 9 sales in VCP's database, so who knows what that 1 PSA 9 graded copy would sell for, since that is the highest graded copy of the Joe DiMaggio, as there have been no PSA 10 graded copies. Coming in at number 6, we have the Hal Newhouser short print. In a PSA 4, there have only been 25 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $3,840. There have only been 20 graded at PSA 5. They sell for around $6,905. There have only been 17 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $10,200. There have been 13 graded at PSA 7. The last PSA 7 sale was for $5,400. There have only been 6 graded at PSA 8. The last PSA 8 sale was in June of 2022 through PWCC and sold for $22,200. And there has not been a PSA 9 or PSA 10 graded copy of the Hal Newhouser card. At number 5, we have the Bob Feller short print. In the PSA 4, there have only been 30 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $4,600. There have only been 17 graded at PSA 5. They sell for around $4,320. There have only been 12 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $5,160. There have only been 8 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $16,538. There have only been 6 graded at PSA 8. The last PSA 8 sale was in February of 2023 to Heritage and sold for $63,000, placing the Bob Feller at the number 3 spot in terms of PSA 8 graded copies on this list. And the PSA 8 grade is the highest grade for Bob Feller, as there have been no PSA 9 or 10 graded copies. At number 4, we have the Larry Doby short print. In a PSA 4, there have only been 23 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $5,253. There have only been 22 graded at PSA 5. They sell for around $5,043. There have also only been 22 graded copies in a PSA 6. They sell for around $6,359. There have been 12 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $10,492. And there have only been 6 graded at PSA 8. The last PSA 8 sale was in March of 2021 through Heritage and sold for $17,400. And there has not been a PSA 9 or 10 graded copy of the Larry Doby card. At number 3, we have the Babe Ruth. In a PSA 4, there have been 193 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $5,567. There have been 138 graded at PSA 5. They sell for around $7,000. There have been 103 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $9,667. There have been 48 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $18,397. There have been 41 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $33,500. There have been 5 graded at PSA 9. The last PSA 9 sale was in August of 2022 through Heritage and sold for a whopping $540,000, placing the Babe Ruth at the number 1 spot in terms of PSA 9 graded copies on this list. And there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Babe Ruth card. Coming in at number 2, we have the Jackie Robinson. In a PSA 4, there have been 243 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $14,602. There have been 227 graded at PSA 5. They sell for around $19,526. There have been 138 graded at PSA 6. They sell for around $31,344. There have been 77 graded at PSA 7. They sell for around $76,000. There have been 40 graded at PSA 8. They sell for around $348,000, placing the Jackie Robinson at the number 2 spot in terms of PSA 8 graded copies on this list. Now, there have been 7 graded at PSA 9. The only PSA 9 recorded sale was in November of 2018 through Heritage and sold for $336,000, also placing the Jackie Robinson at the number 2 spot in terms of PSA 9 graded copies on this list. And there has not been a PSA 10 graded copy of the Jackie Robinson card. And the most valuable card from the 1949 Leaf set, the Satchel Paige short print. In the PSA 4, there have only been 23 graded copies with a current VCP average price of $22,500. There have only been 24 graded a PSA 5. They sell for around $34,800. There have only been 18 graded a PSA 6. They sell for around $50,400. There have only been 27 graded a PSA 7. They sell for around $108,000. And there have only been 5 graded a PSA 8. The last PSA 8 sale took place in November of 2023 through Heritage and sold for $432,000, also placing the Satchel Paige at the number 1 spot in terms of PSA 8 graded copies on this list. And there has not been a PSA 9 or 10 graded copy of the Satchel Paige card. Well, there you go, the top 10 most valuable cards from the 1949 Leaf set. As always, would love to know what you think about the set in general and the cards that made the top 10 list. And if you've missed any of the videos in this series, here are 2 that you can check out. With that, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.